We're back in the Derby Castle after that great win. It's still relatively quiet, not quite flying yet, but I'm sure that'll change in an hour or so. But I've got 4 people with me now: Mark Mosey, Keith Tomlin, Paddy Boylan, and it's first time in the Derby Castle, Dave Downey as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We'll get onto his thoughts. We'll get onto his thoughts about that and the pub a little bit later on. But onto the match first and foremost. Paddy Boylan, Everton winning, Everton playing good footy, Everton being snides, the opposition being cry-arses, the referee being shite. Perfect Goodison day, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a joy to watch, really, and I feel like we've done our penance after a month or so of poor performances where they've barely looked like mustering a shot in anger, and I think everything flipped today. The run of 3 defeats in a row kind of demanded a response, and to be fair to Lampard and the players, they definitely delivered. It's very evident to me early doors just how different things were. I think Iwobi playing slightly further forward and Arna slightly further back, and it made the world of difference. They pressed really well. They kind of hunted in packs. I thought they were much slicker on the ball than they have been for a while. I wonder if part of that's Onana playing deeper and helping with the build-up. But one of the things I really loved about today was that it was 3-0. The substitutes came on and the intensity just didn't drop. Even in the 80th, 90th minute, you've got James Garner and Neil Maupay just being snides, kind of running into the corner, making things really difficult for Crystal Palace. And that Everton team wouldn't have been enjoyable to play against today. So it was a sea change from previous weeks and a really good performance. I'd say probably Everton's best performance of the season so far.
Yeah, it was. I think it was comfortably our best performance this season, if not under Frank Lampard in many ways. I know there'd be many others who have their own favourites and whatnot, but I thought the start of it took a while to get going. I was really concerned with the lineup we went with, which is the same. I'm right in saying it was the same as Newcastle. Petrified of that because I thought Idrissa Gueye absolutely needed dropping, and Garner the other Garner needed to come on and start a game. Decided to stick with them, and I think first and foremost praised the manager himself, because he's stuck with his gun really with all of this, rather than making changes when all of us either with each other sitting here talking, saying we need to change this, he needs to go out, you need to drop him and him, never put Maupay on again. all that sort of thing. I thought it was very well spirited from that side of things. I thought a lot of players looked like they were auditioning for something. Felt like it was Strictly Come Dancing or something when I'm watching these lads actually do things correctly. The press we had was perfectly timed at the position we do it in the ground as well, trying to get onto their feet straight away. Really, really good. Onana. Look, I can't think of a bad performance out of anybody. The 2 lads at centre-back didn't stick out as much as the others, because throughout the last few games, particularly the 3 that we lost, those 2 have been the ones that have been the best players, so they were just absolutely fine. But everyone else was brilliant today. He was, yeah. There wasn't anyone bad. They were all really good today, all of them.
Keith, just talk to me for a minute about that Iwobi flick. Let's just go right to the end. Let's go right to it and talk about it, because that was Goosey-esque, wasn't it?
It was absolute filth. And there was a little kid like couple of seats down from us in our row, and you know the meme of the guy at the wrestling when the Undertaker loses and he's just stood there and his face is like pure unadulterated shock.
Wide-eyed shock. Yeah.
Paul Bearer? No, I said one of the fans.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about Paul Bearer. Rest in peace.
He's giving it like this kid's face. He could not fathom what had just happened in front of his eyes, and honestly, I think you'll struggle to see a better goal than that at Goodison this season. It was perfect. Started off as well. Most of the credit for that goal goes to McNeil for making the chance. The way he came in off his touchline, and it was something I think I mentioned in the group chat earlier that I want our wingers to do more, is be confident enough to try and take on your man. It's not going to work every time, and a lot of the time you will run into a blind alley, you'll lose the ball, the cross, but rather than just going back every single time, just try and make something happen, get the crowd on the feet, and he got the deserved finish for it.
Big Stephen Pienaar back flick vibes against Larissa for Osman's goal, I think, those.
Joe, what, I didn't think about that, but it was. I actually think our second goal today was one of the best Everton goals I've seen for years. And the thing I loved about it is because it started with universal panic because Jordan Pickford had the audacity to play the ball short to one of the centre-halves.
Were you screaming launch it though? Because I was. Yeah.
You know where I sit, so I was obviously screaming launch it. But I think everything that followed, it made its way up to Iwobi and Damari Gray, and I think the only thing that probably would have made the goal a little bit better is Mikalenko had drilled it in. But all of the worries we had this week after Newcastle and in the whole season so far about chance creation and just being a little bit more fluid going forward. It probably wasn't a game today where we had loads of opportunities or loads of shots on target, which I know has been a major point of everyone's analysis this season, but it always felt like it was going to be comfortable, and that was because of, as the other lads have mentioned, the relentless press in the first half was just you can't live with a football team who plays like that. I mean, Crystal Palace must absolutely despise coming here now, which I'm all for, but I think the most pleasing thing today is that a Palace side coming up to Goodison, they reek to me of a team who can cause Everton problems. Eze, Elise, Zaha, right down to Mateta and Ayew, people who have caused us problems in very recent times. And it was beyond comfortable. Jordan Pickford was genuinely a spectator. Everton seemed capable. I know we got beat in the week, but the days of us leaking goals and being that team who totally down tools when something doesn't quite happen in the way that they expect it to are hopefully gone. Just generally on the game, I saw a couple of people beforehand today saying that was possibly the last time that they would be able to get to Goodison Park ever. That to me was the most poetic way for anyone to not watch Everton at Goodison Park ever again. If I could bottle that 90 minutes and make that the last time that we eventually watch this team next season, that is quintessential Goodison Park, isn't it? That is everything that you want to happen, and just nice to go to the game and actually genuinely enjoy it for once. And the enjoyment in recent times has been because, thank fuck for that, or we've moved ahead of Leeds, or we've moved away from the relegation zone. It was just unadulterated, unattached joy, which we haven't had for so long.
Just before Paddy makes his point, I was trying to think of the last time at Goodison that we had a game where we were 2 goals ahead going into the last 10 minutes and we could kind of relax a little bit. It feels like every time we've been to that stadium recently, Leeds, but even every single game we've gone into recently, it feels like right up until the 90th minute, it's been oh my word, this is intense, and you can't relax and you can't settle down. But today, like you said, it was right, 3-0 up, enjoy the last 5 minutes.
And as you said, you had that excitement when the subs come on that you just thought, gonna get another one here, because look at the lads we're bringing on. Look how ragged you look after what we've done to you for 75 minutes. And as you say, it was just nice to have that assurance about a team who know how much comfortably better they are than the opposition.
It was nice seeing the park end empty before 90 minutes because we'd won. People getting off to get the train because they know that we're absolutely fine and we're not going to lose this game.
Just one thing, because I didn't go to the game. You 4 lads did. You won't have seen this yet, or probably won't have. Gordon's goal. You will see when you see it tonight or on your phones at any point. I don't think some of you will be here had you completely lost yourself when you've seen the linesman's decision to cancel that goal. It's one of the weird, genuinely. I mean, he was a shocking referee, but this linesman, how on earth he thinks it's about 3 yards onside.
He's guessed.
With other fellas in front of him. And it honestly, it knocked me sick. I was having kittens for 5 minutes.
I don't know what was worse, the fact that was given, or the overturn took so long. Because we were all standing, obviously, in the ground thinking, this has got to be a tight one, this. And when it came on the screen, I just couldn't believe that it had taken more than 3 seconds to make the call.
They didn't seem to know the rules to me. At one point, there was another ball on the pitch, and play continued.
The ref was telling one of the subs to come on and take the ball off. He's like, you can't do that. It's not allowed. What referee was it?
I don't know. No idea.
I think it was a relatively new one, but it was like being in the most basic kind of kids 11-a-side league you could find with officials that just didn't understand how to interpret the rules and how to do everything. So I think the win is really important. I think we can underestimate how important that win is in the timeline of this season after a succession of defeats. Going into, let's be honest, a really tricky game away at Fulham. If Everton had even drawn today, you could have been looking at a run of 5 games with 4 defeats and 1 draw, and all of a sudden it's panic stations. I mean, it was only a month ago where we were all lauding Lampard and Kevin Thelwell and everybody else for the turnaround this season, and very quickly it's gone the other way. Very quickly people have started to worry about relegation battles and everything else. So today just calms the nerves, particularly the ease with which Crystal Palace were dispatched. But I keep coming back to the idea of what a Frank Lampard team ultimately is, and we've all had this idea in our heads of high press, playing out from the back, comfortable in possession, a really progressive side, and I don't think we've seen that really. Not much evidence of it, maybe against West Ham, but not much evidence of it this season. Today was the blueprint and the standard in that regard. It was how Everton should play, particularly at Goodison. It's how Everton can play moving forward. And I think we saw an evolution really in what Everton were looking to do. Cody and Tarkowski at times defending on the halfway line, Iwobi pushing up with Calvert-Lewin as a second striker, and I thought the difference in the style, but also the difference in performance level was really stark, and it's what we want to see now moving forward, a complete sea change, like I was saying earlier.
And it all helps, Dave, when you've got a lad who can put the ball in the back of the net, doesn't it, in Calvert-Lewin. And I thought it was a very un-Calvert-Lewin goal, actually, the way in which he took it, but I think his all-round performance today, occupying defenders, flinging himself into things, he didn't look like a lad who was worried about getting injured today, maybe for the first time in a while. And I know it's taken time for us to ease him back into the side, but he looked on it again today, didn't he?
Well, because of the absolute broadcast master you are these days, Matt. No, honestly, it's one of the most things I'm proud of in life is the fact that you're one of them. But I won't give you the bigger head.
Talk about how good Dominic Calvert-Lewin is.
No, that's what I'm about to do. Because I completely disagree with the lads when you were talking. I know we've gone round in order, but I was really bursting to say this. I thought that was the goal of the game by an absolute mile. And it's how refreshing is that we're all sitting here talking about what's your favourite Everton goal.
Yeah.
With that one that he scores, when he comes out of where he's playing, I don't think I've seen him do that. You see him chase now and again, but he's been frustrating when he's done that. And then when he does come out, the age-old adage of him coming out of his position is there's nobody else there if he does win the ball. Yeah. He comes out, wins it comfortably, lays it off, and immediately gets back into his position, receive the ball, tip, I think, far too early than you'd normally want him to receive it. Because when Paddy's talking about with press and stuff like that, Iwobi and Gordon are there right next to him. You're thinking his next job is get towards the 6-yard box as quick as you can because the cross is coming in and we want you to head it in. There's none of that. You give it to Iwobi, and Iwobi confidently drilled it straight back to him. He knocks it round their defender, just trods past him, and it's a wonderful finish too. That is top class centre forward play, and it's not we've seen him. I don't think we've seen of him yet. We've certainly not seen of him regularly. But how much momentum he's going to have now, thinking about how difficult things have been for him. I thought that was the best goal of the game, and I thought he was fantastic. And also the bugbear I've had for quite some time now is Frank Lampard's substitutions, and thought they've been, I'm not going to go as far to say a disgrace.
Well, they killed momentum against Newcastle, didn't they, in the week? I felt anyway. I think you have to take Calvert-Lewin off, but I think the Iwobi substitution killed Everton off as a force at a point in the game in which they were probably developing a little bit of momentum.
Tell me about the timings he's making subs. I look back on the 3 games that we lost, 2 at 67, the other at 73 minutes. How late is that to change a game where you are losing or at best drawing? Today they were absolutely perfect. Yeah, when he makes his substitutions, it's been lads are either tired because they ran their socks into the ground. When he puts these other lads on, it's fresh, and people are still bouncing, the crowd's bouncing. It's a much easier decision to make today. The thing that worries me about him, I don't want to go on a bit of a downer about it, but the way he makes his subs, that has to absolutely improve, I think, going forward, because I don't know if you guys think this, but I was pulling what's left of my hair off in those 3 defeats with the subs.
I'm just laughing that even though we've won 3-0, it's still bringing it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he got the sub spot on today, to be fair. Like the timing of the Gray one, he was quite ineffective at that point. and bringing McNeil on put us back on the front foot. Is that the first time he's used 5 subs?
Maybe once or twice.
I don't think he has. I don't think he's used 5 before now. So fair play to him for making the most of it. Just want to touch on Palace briefly because at this point last season, I thought they were on a real up. They looked like the recruitment was good. They were bringing in the right players. He had them playing some decent football. They were absolute dogs today.
Yeah. Like, on the back of 7 points in the last 3
games. They had no intention to come out and play football today. They were going to try and bully Everton off every ball, and as much as the referee tried to let them do it, it just never happened. And like, if you come to Goodison when Everton's tails are up and the crowd are up, if you're not on it and you're not first to every ball, you're going home with a spanking, and thankfully that's what happened today.
Whilst we are talking about Palace, before we have to go back annoyingly to talking about Everton, I think it's important. It's important to highlight for a club who prides itself on supposedly having one of the best support bases in the league, and how animated they are at Selhurst Park. They had half a crowd at a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday and didn't make a word or a sound for the entire 90 minutes.
The other thing here, while we're on the subject of Palace, have you ever seen a bigger cry-arse than Wilfried Zaha? He's just, every time he comes to Goodison, he has a tantrum.
That's all he does it all the time.
I don't even understand what he's angry about half the time.
Yeah, to be fair, if I'd spent 90 minutes in Seamus Coleman's back pocket, I wouldn't be too happy. Because let's be honest, Coleman looked like he was done at Newcastle. He looked like that was the end of him, and Patterson couldn't get back quick enough. And then today he was superb. I think somebody said earlier he took the ball off Zaha 6 times. He played him perfectly. He never gave him a kick.
He's always done quite well.
Well, Ancelotti used to use Coleman whenever there was an opposition winger that he wanted to mark out of the game. He'd ordinarily go with a Holgate or a Godfrey, but would bring Coleman in for specific games. But I remember we spoke to Frank Lampard after the Leeds game, where he hadn't made substitutions, and effectively he was asked the question, why aren't you using your bench? And the strong insinuation was, effectively, I don't trust the options I've got on my bench. But I think now the fact he's making 5 substitutes or 4 substitutes, whatever it was today, shows that he's starting to develop a bit of confidence in the squad. James Garner, what Tom Davies can do off the bench, what Dwight McNeil can do. Even Abdoulaye Doucouré, who in the first half of last season was one of Everton's best players, and he's not getting a look in now.
When he got injured, we were all so down in the dumps.
Everyone was gutted because effectively it was the midfield can't function without Doucouré, but I think he's been searching for a balance in the absence of Nathan Patterson, and his solution with Coleman coming in was to drop Iwobi deep and effectively babysit Coleman covering that side. And I think what he's found today is the perfect balance. He's got Calvert-Lewin further forward as a focal point. He doesn't have to play Onana further forward because he's got the aerial presence already. I think Onana was playing alongside Mope sometimes, almost to make sure Everton could win a bit of aerial ball. But in playing Onana deep by pushing Iwobi on, the balance just looks so much better. And I think he's now, like I say, he's learning to trust those players. So I don't think there's any surprise. Iwobi plays further forward, Onana plays further back. Calvert-Lewin goes up front. Everton look like a completely different proposition. I think given where Calvert-Lewin's been with his injuries over the past few months, and bear in mind even after the game on Wednesday, Lampard said he's not doing shooting drills. Calvert-Lewin, I think where Calvert-Lewin was today in his performance is pretty staggering, to be honest. He was brilliant. He bullied their defence. Keith's just showing us an image of a still of Mikolenko's shot. It didn't look remotely offside to me at the time. I couldn't believe it was flagged.
I put my head through my own telly when I saw
it. He's guessed.
The officials were dreadful.
Do you know what? Like, I knew it was a goal because you could see people in the director's box celebrating because he'd obviously seen the replay on the telly. It was like so obvious. It's like, right, there's no way this has been disallowed.
Paddy celebrating was he? It
was quite funny down the park end, just up while we're on that goal, in that when all the players kind of go over into the corner where the away fans are, and muted celebrations because the flag's up.
Did they all get off when it got headed to VAR?
No, well, most of the Everton players made their way back into position. But Calvert-Lewin and Anthony Gordon were just smiling and joking and laughing with each other, because Gordon must have said to him, there is absolutely no way that I am offside there. So they were able to still continue the celebrations. Why we had to wait 4 minutes for that was anyone's guess.
It's so lucky though, because how many times have you seen this season, every game, where it costs teams points in decisions? If that cost us, mate, given the position we were in, because before that game, obviously the shite went and lost at Forest, and I've seen Evertonians on Twitter, almost rightly so, celebrating because Liverpool have lost. We went Forest went 1 point behind us in fucking 19. This is a huge victory, and morally it's huge for everybody. I think
we get to singing the blues all night now, which we've not been able to do for a long time.
But one man I don't think any of us has mentioned too much specifically, Michalenko, I think deserves a lot of credit, because last few weeks I've been like, this lad, first of all, the mentality side of him, so many times I've looked at that lad and thought he must be all over the place with what's going on at home and whatnot, but today I thought he was really comfortable. I think he stopped actually thinking that he has to go forward, because I don't think he's great at doing that. As a genuine left back though, I think he's absolutely fine. I think he's a good solid left back, but we don't need him, and that's why I think when the McNeil decision that's made by Lampard, when he decides to bring him on and off, is he thinking that he doesn't quite trust his left back, so he needs to get somebody on who can help him? I think that's slowly ebbing away. You're looking to put someone on the left side who can stay there, and you can trust Michalenko as a decent left back. I thought he was good today. He was really good today.
We've been all over the place here. I'm trying to get some kind of chronologically to the podcast.
Let's talk about Palace a bit more if possible.
But just like, we spoke about the Iwobi flick very quickly, most at the start. And, do you know, I know we got 2 assists today, and rightly he's being lauded, but I think in general play, I'm not sure he probably had his best game today. I think he probably tried a little bit too much, lost the ball every now and then, but I think it's a testament to this lad that even after the game where I thought he was a little bit hit and miss, he's still got the confidence and the ability and the belief to pull off something like that right at the end. And I know it's easier when you're 2-0 up and it's late in the game, but it just... I think that performance that he put in today, 12 months ago, people would have been getting on his case and maybe getting a bit frustrated with him, but now he's got that goodwill, he's got that belief in himself, and he's still got the confidence later in games to try stuff like that.
You can see the glint in his eye when he's pressed against the touchline and he squares a defender up, and he knows that he's probably got the technique and he's got the skills to, get the crowd on his side or to get out of a tricky situation. I think that the setup of Everton's midfield is such now that if they collectively play very well as a unit, maybe no one of them individually has to really excel. And I think Everton's midfield was largely dominant today. I thought Iwobi, Garner to a lesser extent, and Onana had good games, some of them very good games, but I'm not going to go home singing and raving about any one individual performance in that, because that's just the level of that midfield, and that's what we know that as a unit they are capable of. The real test for not only Everton's midfield in general, but any one of them, including Iwobi, will be when one of them has to drop out for whatever reason, and we do bring in a Decore, or we do bring in a Davis, or we do change it up in some way. But that one touch from Iwobi today, and to an extent the pass he put through for Calvert-Lewin as well, it's just a massive example of the freedom in his body and in his mind at the moment when he steps onto the football pitch. He knows that all of the basics that he has to do 18 months ago in terms of winning the fans over and doing the basics right and getting the first 10 5-yard passes into feet. He doesn't have to think about that anymore, because he does have that weight off his shoulders whereby not only us will forgive him, but he will forgive himself for making those types of errors. The lad alongside him who I briefly mentioned, Onana, it's a very basic point to say that he is massive, but in a much greater context, he is massive for us now.
He must be one of the best tacklers I've ever seen play. His timing of slide tackles is ridiculous.
Saying to Paddy on the way back into town after the game that the weird comparison that people make between him and Marouane Fellaini. You've got one. The latter was comfortably one of the clumsiest footballers or defenders I've ever seen.
One of the best headers.
Absolutely. And Onana, I think, wrongly has been, as Paddy alluded to earlier, kind of utilised to his own detriment in the last few weeks of being pushed forward and used aerially. he's got some form of radar vision on his tackling, and he hones in on the ball.
As well. He's graceful. He's balletic for his size.
Well, you can see him, flicking it round the corner in the first half to centre halves. He's got that. I used to really panic, and I could feel my heart rate increasing when Marouane Fellaini picked the ball up off defenders. With him, there is an assurance that goes way beyond not only his years but his footballing experience. I mean, we raved about this lad in the summer, but people were very quick to point out that he started for Lille 11 or 12 times. He has no right to be starting every game for Everton. He has no right to be essentially some form of second captain at this team at the moment, because you could see the importance not only to us as a footballing team, but the importance to the other lads around him in terms of his likability. He's always involved in celebrations and little cliques with other players, and he just looks really happy to be here.
You've touched there on how good a tackler Onana is. I think there's 2 tackles today that deserve a mention, and neither of them were by him, unfortunately. First one's Tarkowski on that big yard dog that they threw on up front.
Mr. Messi up front.
Oh my! Genuinely, that tackle was a proper Goodison tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the fact that he won a goal kick out of it as well.
They're some of the best things in footy, them, aren't they? When a centre-back tackles and you win the goal kick.
That's 4-0 for me, that.
The other one for me is Coleman's last gasp at 2-0. Because if he doesn't get that right and he gives away a penalty, or if he doesn't get it in and they score from it, then the last 15 minutes is going to be a lot hairier for us.
Yeah.
That tackle there is probably, without exaggerating, it might have saved the game, because you know what Everton are like when they're up against the negative sort of game script. So it was good. Very happy to see him slide in and win that ball. I've seen him shaped to do it. And I'm sat there and I'm going, oh, this is going to be a penalty. This isn't going to go well.
One of the other best things in footy happened after that tackle, where Jordan Pickford got irrationally angry with Wilfred Zaha. Always love to see that when you're 2-0 up and you keep it. I actually thought he was just going to goal kick Zaha's head into the Gladys Street.
Just to go on, just going back to Onana, he is such a gentle giant, isn't he? I'd have him get me cat down out of a street. I think he's that. He's just. I just think he's got a lot of different attributes in his game that you wouldn't necessarily think as soon as you looked at him. It's the same way you'd say that about Fellaini. We knew he was great in the air, but at the time, do you remember that time when he did that 360 bike around Bellamy that year, and you're like, there's no way you can do that, but he can. Onana feels similar in that only way, but I thought he was brilliant today, and that's seeing him grow into what he can be. Such a good signing to initially make as well. Was a brave signing to make at the cost he was, given the money we couldn't spend. Other one as well, just finally for me, Idrissa Gana Gueye, I thought was a massive issue for the 3 losses effectively. I thought he just looked exactly like a player that's come from PSG who get 80% possession in a game and barely don't have to tackle, and he gave the ball away so much. Today there was still a bit of that, but he was much better, and I felt much more safe with him in and around Onana and Iwobi when he was going with every 1 to 2 on the pitch.
Paddy, I'm going to give you the final word. Here we go. Seamus Coleman, great performance today, wasn't it? Proper rolled the ears back against Zaha.
Yeah, I thought he was great, as I said. We just listened to these instead. It's better than anything I could say.
You got me singing the blues.
There's no point in me speaking while that's on, is there?
Well, join the verse, go on.
Like I said, it's the first time I've been here. They now sponsor us, the Blue Room. I could live in here. I said that when I came down here, because we're in the cellar part of it, aren't we? And we come in, just half an hour after the game finished, and we're like, oh, it's quite quiet in here. And he went, yeah, just wait for it in about half an hour, mate. You won't be able to think for yourself, and that's absolutely right.
I'm trying to enjoy the celebrations, but all I've been able to think about for the last 4 minutes is whether I'd trust Marouane Fellaini with me cat.
Do you know what? We'll leave it there. What a way to finish. That has been your post-match reaction. What a day at Goodison Park, 3-0. Paddy Boylan, Dave Downey, Keith Tomlin, Mark Mosey joining me now. I don't know what's going on there, but we are in the Denby Castle. It's absolutely boss. It'll be flying all night tonight. Denby Disco, Keith.
Denby Disco is live.
There we go. If you're listening to this and you're in town and you hear it, come and have a party later on. It'll be absolutely flying. Come
and have an Underberg.
There you go. Matt Fluss making his late appearance on the podcast there.
Injury time substitution.
I've got to credit you now in the podcast. I have to tag you on Twitter and everything. But we will leave it there.
I was going to say, whenever we make any tiny bit of money, Matt's earning some of it now by just saying his voice.
Like when you get an appearance bonus when you get brought on as a sub in the 94th minute.
There we go. You are Abdullah Decore in today's podcast in that sense.
Like the Masked Singer, wasn't it?
We will leave it there. What a day at Goodison Park. The Blues back with a win. Playing some wonderful football, getting under the